Well, good morning, church. Did you know that in 1956, serving under the Eisenhower administration, Vice President Richard Nixon actually campaigned under the prediction that Americans would be working a 4-day work week in the, quote, not so distant future. It doesn't matter what your political affiliation is. I think we can gather from that we never really grow up too much more than our grade school days. Sounds a little reminiscent of class president elections. Vote for me and I'll get rid of mystery meat in the cafeteria and I'll do away with homework on Fridays, right? Fast forward almost a decade, in 1965, under the Johnson administration, Senate Subcommittee on Employment and Manpower projected that due to a rapid increase in computerization and automation, the American work week would be reduced to 22 hours a week by the year 1985. Fast forward a little, yes, that's laugh-worthy. It gets better. In 2000, they predicted that it would be a mere 14 hours with a minimum of 7 weeks of vacation time across the American labor force. And I would like to know, who do I talk to about this? Because that is not my lived reality. No, despite predictions trending towards less and less work requirements, it seems like we're racing in the complete opposite direction at full throttle. In fact, advancements in technology, automation, the like, have not made it less likely to work. It has only increased our ability to work even more. Send the email from anywhere in the world. Whip out your cell phone. And all of a sudden you have access to a treasury of tools, of resources, and of vices that I think would make even King Solomon himself stop in his tracks, look in amazement, and blush, all at the same time. And we're giving these things to our little kids, by the way, which brings up another point. It's not just us that are busy, the grown-ups in the room. It's our kids too. I kid you not. I was not searching this out, but I was at the public library with my family a couple weeks ago. My children love books. So I've got Piper on my lap in the really little kids section, reading her a book, and I look over at what's on the shelf on display, and I see a book called I'm Busy with a little girl cartoon on the picture. Oh, I'm not going to turn down an easy sermon illustration, so of course I went and grabbed the book and read it, knowing this series was coming. It's about a little kindergarten girl who's too busy to play with her friends, which are a flamingo and a potato. And the whole book is about, all the obligations, the things that she has that keep her from playing with her friends. And on one page, it actually shows a 2-month calendar of all her to-dos. Every single day is full. Just a quick summary of some of the things: art class, trumpet lessons, karate tournaments, Spanish practice, book club, board game night, Spud Festival, the potato, gerbil sitting for a grandma, science experiments, writing a book, working on coding projects, that one I can believe, and the book finishes with this exclamation: I'm sorry, I'm too busy. I have to finish college applications because those are due in 12 years. And it's laughable, it's funny, and yet it's not at the same time, because this is reality, not just for us, but for the youngest generation. So much so that we have to write books in service of helping them cope with the busyness of their kindergarten lives. Far from the world of leisure and laid-back careers, easygoing life, it seems like we're drowning in busyness, no matter what age you are, and we're doing our best just to survive the tidal wave of everyday life. This way of frantic living, I don't have to tell anybody here that this frantic way of living isn't good for us. We all know it. It's certainly not in service of our discipleship to Jesus, and yet somehow we can't seem to escape it. One of our beliefs here at Restoration City Church is that we are called to be a non-anxious presence to a weary world around us. Non-anxious here, yes, our bodies, our lives, but also our souls, for the anxiety and chaos out there. But we don't stand a chance of living that out. if we're just as busy, just as stressed, just as maxed on capacity as everyone else around us? The passage that Jason just read a minute ago, Jesus didn't say, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I'll help you grin and bear it." Or I'll help you endure until this life is over and you can finally rest in heaven. Or I'll help you come to the terms with the sad reality that's just the way it is, so get used to it. No, he said, "Come to me and I will give you rest." Not a far away rest off in the extremely distant future. Not a rest you have to earn, and once you do, you don't really get to enjoy it because you're so tired. A present rest here and now, given freely to all that would simply come and receive it. It's not a metaphorical rest, simply referring to eternal salvation, though that's absolutely part of it, and we'll cover that in a couple weeks. No, it's a physical rest. Who here is exhausted? I know I am. Yeah, hands are okay. Mental rest. Who's so tired from thinking, running the problems in your head over and over again? Rest for our weary and burdened souls. A rest that brings restoration to our lives and all of creation around us in the process. See, God has invited us to a better way than what is on offer around us, a better way than our default. He's invited us to the way of Jesus. And a key element of the way of Jesus, the life and practices, is a weekly Sabbath. That's what we're going to be focusing on for the next 3 weeks here at Restoration City Church. We'll dive into the 4 major movements of a Sabbath day: to stop, to rest, to delight, and to worship, or as some would say, to contemplate God and his goodness. As we do, we'll explore some of the major biblical themes that Sabbath inhabits. Sabbath as surrender. That's what we're talking about today. Next week, Sabbath as resistance. Some of you want to do something. That's your chance. We're going to learn all about it. And then finally, Sabbath as anticipation of what's to come. And we'll throw in some practical topics and tips on how we move from a conceptual understanding of Sabbath to a lived reality of it. Some of you in the room and online got really excited when I said the word Sabbath. I was very excited about preparing this series. I think we could go 5 or 6 weeks longer, but I want you to come back, so we're not. Only 3. Some of you couldn't help but roll your eyes. Took everything in you to resist the audible groan. Ugh, here we go again. Because this isn't new to our church, right? If that's where you're at this morning, I just want to say lovingly, that's okay. If what church looks like for you the next 3 weeks is singing a few songs and then sitting down, tilting your head back and taking a nap, I bless that. In the name of Jesus, please feel complete freedom. Because sometimes the most spiritual thing we can do as human beings is simply take a nap. And I will be praying up here that the Spirit of the living God will meet you in that nap, and we'll just see what happens. But more than anything, this series is an invitation to taste and see the goodness of God, to receive the rest that he promises. Are his promises true? And whether you've just heard the word Sabbath today for the first time, or you've been practicing it for years, or you're anywhere in between that spectrum, we really believe God has something for every single one of us along the way, even if it's just a few naps. So should we jump in? Sabbath as surrender. The first point right up front is this reality that Sabbath is surrendering to the wisdom of God. We're going to be in Genesis chapter 2, verse 1. Feel free to start turning that way. If you don't have a Bible, there's some in the lobby. It's also going to be on the screen behind me. But before we get there, just a little bit of catch-up, because the whole chapter, the very first chapter of the Bible, has already happened at this point. Genesis 1:1, God created the heavens and the earth, and he made lights. So there was darkness and light, and he said it was good. And for 6 days of creation, he made something, and then he called it good. And on the 6th day, he made all the creatures of the earth, animals, bugs, dinosaurs. Who doesn't love dinosaurs? And he said it was good. And then he made this little bonus creation called humanity. Man and woman breathed into existence from the dust of the earth. And he said, it is very good. And he says that I have made you in my image, which means we are his partners in overseeing all of creation, stewarding it towards life and flourishing. And it was only after creating man and woman that God was satisfied with his work of creation. But there's still one more day in the week, right? Day 7. And we get to Genesis chapter 2, starting in verse 1. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the hosts of them. And on the seventh day, God finished his work that he had done. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all his work that he had done in creation. What did God do to celebrate his work of creation? How did he choose to place his all-important signature on his masterpiece? In the Hebrew, it says he Shabbat, which just means he stopped, he ceased. Jewish scholars have noted that depending on how the word is used in context, it can also be translated, he delighted. God didn't stop because he was tired and needed to. No, he stopped because the only appropriate response to the work he had just done of creating everything was to step back and marvel, to take a deep sigh of satisfaction in his creation. For 6 whole days, God crafted beautiful, extravagant things. The world is full of incredible beauty, right? And none of it took a single ounce of effort for God to make. Yet he still chose to rest. Not because he was lazy and complacent about creation. Here, Adam and Eve, I did my part. The rest is on you. I'll be my God-sized lazy boy. Call me if you need me. No. Because he saw equal value in enjoying his creation as he did making it in the first place. And he wants the same for us. So much so that he intentionally placed the day of rest immediately after the day he created human beings. Day 6, humanity is spoken into being, and day 7, humanity takes a big fat nap, right? They delight, they worship in their Creator as the beginning of their existence. It's like if you were to start a new job and you go in for orientation, they give you the tour of the office. Here's where the coffee and the water is. This is the printer that you'll be assigned to. And then as you're heading out the door, your boss is like, oh yeah, don't forget, tomorrow's your first day of work, so make sure you don't come in. Like, what? It's my first day of work. I need to work, right? He says, well, yeah, it's your first day of work, so it's vacation. And all of a sudden you're like, I could get on board with this place. This is pretty good, right? God, in his infinite wisdom, said there's plenty of time for all kinds of amazing work alongside me. First, I just want you to be with me. So God blessed the seventh day. In the creation narrative, God blessed 3 things, actually, in chapter 1, animals, people, and the Sabbath day. To animals and people, he said, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. Translation, have a lot of babies. Have fun doing it. Live a long and happy life. So too of Sabbath, it's intended to be a life-giving, life-creating force to all of creation, especially his image bearers. In fact, Sabbath is a larger expression of a deeper life-sustaining work-rest rhythm that God wove into the very fabric of creation itself. To each day, God gave day and night, or in the Jewish tradition, night and day, right? Time for work and time for rest. There's solar and lunar rhythms, right? Governing seasons and tides, times of fruitfulness, times of recovery, ebbing and flowing, right? Take our human heart as an example, right? As it pumps blood through our body. On the one hand, there's the very critical life-sustaining work of your heart to pump oxygen and nutrients throughout your body to keep you alive. And on the other hand, there's the very critical life-sustaining rest that your heart takes after every single beat. Lub-dub, lub-dub, lub-dub. It's not a constant beating. If it did, it would literally beat itself to death. And have you ever noticed how our default tendency is not towards this work rest, but just to work? From this meeting to that engagement to that happy hour afterwards. And then we head home to check a few more emails and maybe jump on a Zoom call, to collapse into bed, only to wake up the next morning and immediately reach for the cell phone to scroll our email groggily, or check our text messages to see what urgent message came in while we were sleeping, or what dumpster fire are we walking into the office today, only to collapse into the weekend after Friday. So exhausted that we just veg out on Netflix or something else to just numb the exhaustion, or we fill it with all kinds of good activities. The kids have sporting events in 3 different locations, all before the birthday party at noon and the play date after that. And then we have to go get groceries before we make dinner and collapse into Netflix again. And then there's Sunday morning. If we have enough energy to get out of bed in time to go to church, afterwards there's lunch with friends, meal prep for the week ahead. Got to mow the lawn or wash the car. I haven't washed my car in like 10 years, so that one's not relevant to me. Or whatever other to-do is on your list that you didn't get to beforehand. We pack our schedules so full. We stay so busy. Exhaustion becomes the baseline norm of life itself. We're slowly killing ourselves, y'all, one day at a time. Now, many of you know Catherine and I used to live in China. That's actually where we met. We fell in love with the culture, we fell in love with the food, we fell in love with the language. We didn't learn it to proficiency that we felt comfortable, really only to get ourselves in trouble or put our foot in our mouth all the time. But it's a beautiful, rich language, right? And the characters, they're not just symbols. In their most ancient form, they really were pictures that meant something. And they would take this picture of this word and this picture of this word, and to create a more complex and meaningful word, they'd put them together to make a new word. One example of this is when they took the word xin, which is the word for center or heart. Lots of different applications. It could literally just be the center of the room, or the city center, or it could refer to your heart as a person, or the inner life as a human being. And they took the word wang, which means to die. And they put these together, and that formed the word busy. Multiple thousands of years ago, wisdom displayed through words themselves. Through our busyness, we're killing ourselves. But in Sabbath, we resist the self-sabotage of busyness and surrender ourselves to the wisdom God so graciously wove into creation. The wisdom of 6 days of good, honest, hard work. And then a 24-hour period where we cease productivity, we stop striving, we make absolutely no effort to move the ball forward, and we delight in that. We enjoy things and moments and people that God brings across our path, all orienting our heart back to Him in worship. The God of creation rested on the 7th day, even though He didn't need to. How much more should we, knowing we need to? So Jesus said, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." I know you're weary, He's saying. I know you're tired. Come to me. I'm offering you rest. Take my yoke, my ways, my truth upon you. Adopt those rhythms as your own, rhythms of flourishing. But that all starts by being willing to stop. But if we're honest, stopping can feel pretty scary at times, right? Stopping means we're no longer in control. We're no longer the ones calling the shots. We're no longer the one moving the chess pieces on the board. Or we finally have to be still and face the thoughts, the questions, the doubts in our inner self. All of the what ifs, right? What if that important thing comes up while I'm gone? What if something big comes up and I'm not able to take care of it because I'm out of office? What if I run out of milk? I dare you. Come between a toddler and their milk after a hard wake up from a nap. You don't want any part of that. What if we run out of milk? Mark Buchanan, the author of the book that we're currently reading through as a church, The Rest of God. They're not for sale, sorry. He put it this way: indeed, the worst hallucination busyness conjures is the conviction that I am God. All depends on me. How will the right thing happen at the right time if I'm not pushing and pulling and watching and worrying? Through Sabbath, we regularly remind ourselves that God is God and I am not. And that is the most good. That despite our best effort to convince ourselves or live as if we have no limits, we are very limited, finite creatures. God is infinite. He has no limits. He's perfectly capable of keeping the earth in orbit while we sleep. We can trust him to take care of us. We can trust that he knows what's best for us, which means through Sabbath, we surrender to God's care. Which brings us to Exodus chapter 16. It's the second book of your Bible if you're not familiar with it. We're quite a bit down the road in the journey of humanity from creation. A little catch up here. Moses is wandering through the desert with God's people. They've just left slavery in Egypt. They're hungry, they're tired, they're saying, God, feed me. So Moses goes to God and he says, God, feed us. And God says, okay, I'll feed you. He sends quail in the evening. And he says, I will rain bread down from heaven in the morning. But he also gave very clear direction on how they were to receive this care. Through Moses, he said, gather of it, the bread that they called manna, each one of you as much as he can eat. Gather of it only what you can eat. Remember, these folks have been in slavery their literal entire lives. Scarcity mentality was a thing. God didn't say, collect as much food as you possibly can. He was teaching them the concept of enough, right? How to be content in what he provided in the moment. To live with healthy limits, looking to him for provision. So Moses, God speaking through him, says again, let no one leave any of it over till the morning. But they did not listen to Moses. Some left part of it till the morning, and it bred worms and stank. Gross. And Moses was angry with them. Yeah, I would have been too. Morning by morning they gathered it, each as much as he could eat. But when the sun grew hot, it melted. God also didn't tell them to collect food all day, every day, or whenever they wanted. The manna was only available in a short window of time, from when the morning dew evaporated until the sun got hot enough to melt the manna. Do the math, it comes out to roughly 4 hours, give or take a little bit. They literally weren't able to continue doing the work of gathering past that point because the manna disappeared. How's that for God imposing limits on your humanity? And as we read, it didn't go very well at first. The very first day, fear and control set in. What if the supply of manna dwindles prematurely? We don't have enough yet. What if God forgets to send provision tomorrow? What if I get hungry in the middle of the night and want a midnight snack? I'm going to save a little for tomorrow. Instead of gathering only what they could eat, they stockpiled, covering their bases in case God didn't deliver. And the next morning, they paid the consequences. Awful, stinking leftovers. So they learned to trust God a little bit more over the next few days until the next test came. Verse 22. On the sixth day, they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers each. And when all the leaders of the congregation came and told Moses, he said to them, this is what the Lord has commanded. Tomorrow is a day of solemn rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. Bake what you will bake and boil what you will boil, and all that is left over lay aside to be kept till the morning. So they laid it aside till the morning as Moses commanded, and it did not stink, and there were no worms. Massive improvement. Moses said, eat it today, for today is a Sabbath to the Lord. Today you will not find in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the seventh day, which is a Sabbath, there will be none. On the sixth day, God tells his people, do the complete opposite of what I've told you to do the other 5 days. Instead of only gathering enough for 1 day, gather enough for 2. He also said, you're going to need to trust me because I want you to hold on to this portion. It's not going to stink, but you need to trust me. This is trust in action. We call that faith, right? Learning to live out their trust in God, whether things made sense or seemed incredibly counterintuitive in the moment. Sabbath is an invitation to put our trust of God's care into daily and weekly rhythms of action in our lives as well. Weekly rhythms of stopping on Sabbath require a weekly rhythm of preparation, gathering that extra portion, right? Intentionally preparing ahead of time so that when Sabbath arrives on your doorstep, you can actually stop and enjoy it. We call this the day of preparation. What are the needs of tomorrow? Let's do those now so that we can actually rest and enjoy God and his gifts as he intends. Also, it requires a daily rhythm of living within our limits, the other 6 days of the week. And I think this is really the hard part for us today. Learning to be content with what God provides each day. Embracing enough. Not trying to grab more than we can eat or bite off more than we can chew. Not letting our ambitions, our desires, even our involvement in very good, God-honoring things spill over their healthy boundaries, lead us towards discontent, unsustainable lifestyles. Now, a quick note before we get into a little bit more practical application. I'm hoping to explore this topic in the weeks ahead, but it's not lost on me that many of us in the room have very real obligations, responsibilities, requirements placed upon you outside of your will or desire that you simply cannot avoid, no matter what day of the week it is. Whether they just pop up on a Sabbath unexpectedly or it's a defining mark of your current season in life. I get that. Trust me, I do. I am the father of 2 very young children, not as young as they used to be. Wonderful as they are, delightful as they are, they're largely incapable of taking care of themselves. That is just the nature of being almost 3 and just 4. Right? My youngest, who we thought was nighttime potty trained, all of a sudden isn't, so that's fun. And her little 2-year-old body doesn't care if it's the Sabbath or not. So when she pees the sheets, somebody's got to clean that. And guess who's up to bat? Yeah, that's me. I love them. They bring me so much delight, so much joy, but they're also sinners who have absolutely no problem making my day a living hell, even if it's the one day of the week that's supposed to be the best day of the week. I've since been told by my loving, much better human being wife than me that is not how she feels. So I have some work to do in my own heart towards my children. But the point is, there's no magic button we get to press on Sabbath to make all of that just disappear, right? There's absolutely nothing restful in those moments yet. I haven't gotten there yet, but it's worth pressing into. Parents of newborns know all too well that when baby wants to eat, and nothing else in life matters. The pain of debilitating illness, whether it's yours or somebody that you're caring for, doesn't just go away all of a sudden because the calendar says Sabbath on it. I've lived that one out. Which is why I need to be hyper clear. The invitation of Sabbath is to stop working, not to stop caring. And we need to be careful not to conflate the two. The creator of the universe did not stop caring for his creation on the 7th day. He simply stopped creating. By setting down his divine hammer and chisel, he actually moved towards his creation, providing care and attention through his presence. By inviting us to stop working on the Sabbath, God simultaneously offering his loving care and provision for us, while as his image bearers, inviting us to step into that same care for other people. The key, I think, is being honest with ourselves about the nature of the obligations, responsibilities, or tasks we encounter on any given Sabbath. Are they matters of care associated with a primary role as a parent, as a caregiver, or anything of the like? You have freedom to ask yourself that question. If they are, can they be planned ahead of time for or not? There's no right or wrong answer. Just go into it knowing. Are the things that pop up important, maybe even urgent, maybe even good and God-honoring? Are those matters of life within the scope of your agency? Which means you can place boundaries around them to protect one day and do those things on the other 6. We tend to have far more agency in life than we're willing to give ourselves credit for. And the unpopular truth here is, especially within our career work, it's just not the downstream approach. It requires a countercultural way of living. But that is following Jesus in a nutshell. Right? It's not everybody's situation. Some of us literally have zero say. And that is a fact, and that's okay. But a lot of us have a lot to say. Can we be honest with ourselves about these things? Are we willing to surrender to the care he's offering and do the preparatory work he's invited us to protect the care he wants to give us? So what might it look like for us to lean into Sabbath and practice that first movement, the very first movement, to simply stop? Well, we see from Genesis that Sabbath is part of God's design for human flourishing, that 24-hour period of time set aside from the other 6. It's a day literally blessed by God, right? Intended to give life and nourishment. Historically, Jews practiced Sabbath on a Saturday. We as Christians practice Sabbath on a Sunday, and that's okay. What's actually important here is practicing it. The day of the week really doesn't matter all that much. Although I would encourage you, if this is something that you want to step into, consider what day is going to most likely allow you to do it alongside other brothers and sisters in Christ. And the easy answer is Sunday is a really great day for us as followers of Jesus to live Sabbath. Now, for the McGowan and the Nida households, we practice Sabbath on Saturday because today is a work day for me, and that's good, and I love it, but it's not restful, right? I started working at 6 a.m. this morning, and I won't stop for a while, just like you won't on a Monday, right? It's just a work day, so I take Saturday as my day of rest. Now, we covered that the Jewish day started in the evening to morning. Our modern day goes morning to night. Right? So for a Jewish Sabbath, they would start 20 minutes before sundown. That's when their Sabbath would officially start. And it would run all the way to 20 minutes before sundown on Saturday. So at my house, Friday night, we start ours at dinner time. We sit around our table, we light a candle because there's something about liturgy, about creating a beginning moment that just brings the intangible of time into a very tangible reality. It makes it more present, more real to us. So we light a candle to mark that time as special. And we try to make this really approachable for our kids. So we always say the same prayer. Thank you, Jesus, for being the light of the world. And with that, Sabbath has begun. And then my kids fight over who gets to blow out the match every single week, right? It's Jewish custom to extend the greeting Shabbat Shalom, which just means the peace of Sabbath, right? It's on a casual hand, the same as saying like Happy Sabbath or Merry Christmas or Happy New Year. But on a deeper level, it's a blessing from one to another, saying, may you encounter the fullness of God's goodness, his perfect peace as you step into the rest that he offers. Now, that Shabbat Shalom is not keeping it approachable for my children, but we've adopted it anyway. And at one point or another, my oldest, Oakley, much younger at the time, trying to say it, said, Shabbat Shaboom! And we love it. So we've adopted that as our official start of Sabbath. We'll say, Shabbat Shaboom, guys! And the kid's face lights up. They get so excited because they know Papa doesn't have to go to work tomorrow. And we're going to get dessert tonight. And we're going to get a sweet little treat in the morning. And we're just going to play and have fun tomorrow. After the kids go to bed, Catherine and I will take out a journal. Call it our surrender journal, if you will. It doesn't actually have a name. And we'll simply write down the things that we feel are left unfinished. Man, sermon prep just didn't go the way I was hoping. Not quite there yet. And I'll give it to her, and she'll say, there's this big decision that we have to make, and it's kind of stressing me out. I'm going to write that one down. And, the house isn't quite as neat and orderly as we would like. It's not perfect. I'll write that one down. My kid is sick. Like, he's actually sick. He's had a fever for a week. It's awful. I'll write that one down. And then we pray over these things, and we say, God, we offer these in surrender to you. You are capable of holding them for 24 hours while we stop and rest. Knowing we're going to pick these back up in 24 hours, God, they're yours. And we close the book. And you would not believe how much power that simple act holds for our mental peace, our enjoyment throughout the day. And then we spend all of Saturday embracing the idea of stopping productivity. If it's moving a ball forward, we're not doing it. We rest in so many ways. We delight in fun, in pleasure, in sweet treats, in God. And all of these things orient our heart back to him again and again and again in worship. Before we get to all that, we have to do a bit of preparation. Right? The other 6 days of the week have to be governed by some confines, right? We don't let ourselves go outside of the healthy boundaries each day holds for us. So we protect our evening time. We make sure we have time throughout the week as a family and with other people. Because community group is really great. And getting together with the ladies is really great. But so is just Catherine and me hanging out, or us having a later night than usual with the kids reading books. It also means that Friday, leading up to the start of our Sabbath, is our get stuff done day, right? It's our day of preparation. So we're cleaning, we're putting things away, we're tidying up loose ends so that we can sit down at dinner, not with everything perfect. It's never perfect, but feeling like, man, there's far less weighing on us, far less to write down in that journal when we step into this moment. Now, I don't want to romanticize anything here. Keeping a rhythm of Sabbath is hard work, and it will always be hard work from now until Jesus comes back. My family's been practicing it for nearly a decade, and we still falter and stumble through it most weeks, but it's 100% worth it. I can promise you that. I don't give promises out that lightly. 3 things I can't imagine life without. Jesus, I'm a pastor, I have to say that, right? Jesus, Catherine, and Sabbath. The kids are a quick fourth. Sabbath is in my top 3. I literally cannot imagine life without it. Not because it's perfect, but it's because it's so good for my soul. Do you want my hot take? My potentially controversial opinion as a pastor? I personally believe, this is not John McGowan speaking or the rest of our elders, this is me, John Michael, saying, I personally believe that Sabbath holds more power than any other discipline of our faith to lay a foundation for a deeper, richer, more meaningful discipleship to Jesus. It's in Sabbath that we learn to come to Jesus in trust, to take his yoke, to adopt his ways as our own. More than our morning quiet time, that includes the Bible. more than your prayer life, more than fasting, serving on a Sunday morning, or giving to God's kingdom. All of those things are incredibly good, and we should not get rid of them. I'm just saying, if you want to establish a foundation right where you're at, I'd explore Sabbath, because it's going to create space for all of those other things. It's through Sabbath that we actively learn to come to God and trust, taking everything that He wants for us, the work and the rest, and knowing each's proper place. In Sabbath, as we see next week, we'll learn to resist the myriad of ways that the world tries to tug us away from Him again and again and again. And in our final week, we'll learn that to look towards eternity, to anticipate Christ's return and the promises of being with Him in glory on a new earth forever and ever, that actually begins right now. And Sabbath is the best place to start living it out. Jesus said, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Doesn't that sound good? Won't you join us in Sabbath? Our ask is not that you go and create a master list of how you're going to Sabbath next week. That's a bit too big of a bite to take. My request is that you would actually just enter into this week with a curiosity. What things might make Sabbath really hard? What things feel like they might be really hard to stop to enter that space? And then we'll gather again, and we'll learn a little more. We'll trust a little bit more fully that God is who He says He is. Pray with me. God, I want to keep this one short and sweet. This week, would you help us to learn to stop our striving, to rest in your incredible presence and provision, to delight in your goodness, and to worship you, the one making all things new. Amen.